Hello, ArabNet. So it's a pleasure for me to be with you here today, and I hope it becomes really useful 20 minutes. In order to do that, I will start with the test. And the test is basically 3 questions. If your answer is yes, I would just like you to raise your hands. So first, anybody here traveling from outside of Lebanon? Okay. Anybody here is coming to attend ArabNet? So how many here get annoyed when speakers ask you to raise your hand for totally questions that have no real meaning and they don't use it later? I get annoyed, right? So let's agree on the rules if I get my clicker, so I have a clicker connection there. Let's agree on the rules, okay? We will not have a lot of rhetoric, and by the way, most speakers use this sign as an emphasis or highlight because it's quote unquote. We're now in an age where we tweet and post, so actually the new sign that I will invent right now is hashtag. So no rhetoric, and we will not be talking about scenarios that do not really work. Internet of Things is a real thing today. And what we are going to do on the other side, we'll talk about what is real and what is not, what we can do today, and what to look for in the immediate future. Okay? So let's start with one thing, and it is what IoT is not. So I like to work a lot with tinkering with electronics, with software. So if you're using Arduino boards, Intel Galileo boards, Raspberry Pi, and so on, I like to play with these things with breadboards and jumper cables and so on. But that is not the Internet of Things. It is about maybe making your home door a bit smart. It's making about some few things has some intelligence, but it's not alone the Internet of Things. It is not all what is needed. It's also not about the adding some connectivity to some of these objects. So some people do very nice projects, and the projects are about having some smarts in some of the objects, our everyday objects, but then connecting them to the internet, which is, again, not sufficient, necessary, but not sufficient for the Internet of Things. So in essence, it is not about getting some everyday objects and having them connected to the internet. That alone is not what we think is the Internet of Things. So what is it, the Internet of Things? It is really the coming together of 4 mega things hand in hand, working together at the same time. It is about computing on the edge. So when we say things, think about computing on the edge, ubiquitous computing, how we have everyday objects with us. So in the room, I'm seeing lots of tablets, laptops, phones, which are already smart on its own, but we already can also have lots of smart things like having this podium to be smarter, having the room that we're in or the building we're in to be a smart building. So adding smarts to these things is really important, especially when you're having a business. Now, the other thing about that is there are lots of predictions on the number of things that will be connected to the internet. So some numbers go into the billions, the tens of billions, the hundreds of billions, but all in all, we all agree that we will have a huge amount of number of things that will be connected to the internet. So if we have that in mind, connectivity becomes an issue. How do we connect all of these? Having in mind that some of these things will be low powered, will be not having much power to operate on. They need to operate in isolated places for like 10 or 20 years without having much power. So having that connectivity is an issue. Now, if we have all of these things that can sense the world around them, measure different things, temperature, pressure, or anything, and then we have all that data, we call that the data exhaust that is coming out of all the connected things, and now we have a gold mine. That gold mine is the data that is coming out of all of that, and then we can apply the analytics to get insights and apply it to our business. So these 4 things together are the whole premise of the Internet of Things. And it is meant to help us in everyday business, whether it's our personal, home automation, health monitoring, or even the manufacturing and really transforming our business. And if we are talking about transforming our business, there are really some imperatives that do not change. So in any business that we run, we need to look after 3 things. 1, reducing the costs and inefficiencies in our business. Another one is increasing the revenue. And any business or company will always be on the lookout for new revenue streams, new business models that they can look after. So these are the main things. But after that, we also are looking at a new guest in the house when we talk about the business, and it is about the digital business. Digital business have lots of definitions, but if we simplify it, it's basically the triad of the people, things, and the business. Usually, all of these entities were growing on their own in an isolated space, but now with the technology, we can connect them. So we can have the data that are coming out of things really add insights to the people, which can come back and affect the business. And if you look at what's different in this slide is now with the Internet of Things technology, you can have things that are now intelligent and connected. So that adds a new frontier that we didn't have before and can help us drive the insights. So how can we bring the Internet of Things to life today? As I said, we need to look at what we can use today. Today, we have lots of smart devices. Again, I mentioned smart devices in the room. There are many what we call line of business assets. So in this building that we're in, there are the elevators, there are the metal detectors. There are lots of things that have data. They sense the world around them. They change the world around them, moving and turning on lights and climate control and so on. So these are things that already are collecting data, and some of them will be even able to collect more data if we want to add a few capabilities to it. Now, after we do that and we connect it, then we get data that is coming out of that. If we couple that with external data sources, so think about customer records, ERP data that is coming. Even for an event like this, if we're turning ArabNet into, ArabNet is already a smart event, so let's say we want to make it smarter, then maybe we couple the data coming from the Twitter feeds, from the social networks, and how we combine that into an event that can adapt fast. So combining all of this data together, we have a gold mine. And in Microsoft, we have the tools to dig into this gold mine. So if we look at this data, how it can be connected into our Microsoft Azure services. Microsoft Azure is the cloud offering from Microsoft. And we have lots of services there that can help customers really dig into this gold mine and get out of value out of it. Whether it's very sophisticated like machine learning, or even the Power BI, which is your normal Excel, but now with real capabilities that can help you get more insights. So continuing in building of the Internet of Things, once we get all of that data and we connect it with these services, we really get benefits out of our insights that are coming out of that. So now we're moving too fast forward. First, we can, okay. So once again, we can improve efficiency. I will take these three and run 2 times in them. First time just to explain the concept, and then we'll take it into specific examples as I promised in the beginning. So improving efficiency is the first one. So think about this. You already have things, whether it's line of business assets, like if you are a manufacturing company, the floor, the machines, or everything like that. And for that, you can, if you can just connect, meaning connect them to the cloud, and we have the services for that, and then monitor the health of your assets, and then store the data. Just by doing this alone, you can respond quickly to incidents that happen. You can detect anomalies as they happen and be very responsive in your business. And we will have an example about this. But this part, if we can connect and then monitor and then store the data, that way we can improve the efficiency. The second one is about enabling innovation. So once you start getting the gold mine that I talked about, the data, and you start getting historical data. So now you have data about when things failed, when customers were not happy, when something changed, and you can trace back in history and look at the data and try to get insights out of that. Based on that, you can enable innovation, meaning you can enhance your product, add more features to them that are data-driven. So now the business is not based on us sitting together and thinking what the customers may like. It is actually based on real data. And the third one is about transforming the business. So once you have that data and you can look at the anomalies, there are things that we, even as human, we don't see. So if we apply the machine learning power of the cloud on Azure, if we apply HD Insight, which is our Hadoop distribution on Azure, we can find new trends and create new business models that didn't exist before. I know this is a lot to grasp, so I decided that I go through it twice. So that was the first one. Now let's take a real example. Let's imagine for a minute that you and I, we created a company, and this company now owns the elevators in this building and maybe in the Hilton, okay? So our main line of business assets now are the elevators. So imagine that these elevators have the sensors to see maybe the heat, how fast the doors are closing, and we know the threshold. If the doors are not closing fast enough, then something must be blocking them. And for that, we have something called Azure Event Hub. And Azure Event Hub is really a service that allows millions of devices to, it can ingest the data from these devices and store it without disrupting their operations. So this is like the hub that can take all the data quickly. And then this feeds into another service which is called Azure Stream Analytics. For those who use Storm, that's our alternative for that. And what it does is a very large-scale, real-time stream processing services. And what it does now is it starts looking at anomalies. So maybe it finds that one of the elevators that we own is actually becoming more slow in closing the door, which means something may be blocking the door, or maybe it needs cleaning, or something is about to happen in that. And what we do, because now we can look at this anomaly, is we go ahead and dispatch a technician. So now the technician is on his way to the site, and he finds that there is a problem and fixes it. What does that give us as a business? Remember, all what we did is we connected the assets, we started monitoring the health, and we have the data. So now, for customers, the downtime of the elevator is minimized, and the customer loyalty is now much higher. People who would be affected by that problem are now happier customers. So this is the improved efficiency part. Now imagine that we, as the elevator owning company, want to take this further, because what happened, we collected, monitored, we responded, but now we have the data. And now we have the data for our elevators for the last maybe year. And we start seeing trends through applying what we call Power BI. And Power BI, just to not be intimidating to everyone, it's actually you're using Excel. You're applying most of the things that you know in Excel, but adding to that the Power BI capabilities, which give you insights into the trends. And now you can see that every time in the summer, maybe, and when certain events happen, that the doors start being cluttered, and there are some problems that start happening. So based on that, you decide that, hey, we really need to increase the cleaning staff in this part of the summer, and this way you take care of the problem. If it's another problem other than the door cleaning, maybe you update the software of the elevator, and that gets rid of some of the problems. Or maybe the next generation of elevators that you will have, it will have a product feature that will now get rid of these problems forever. So, but now these new features will be data-driven. It will not be based on us thinking that, hey, this will work better. Now, if we want to take it to the last level, and this will be about transforming our business. Now, for transforming our business, we look at the data in a different way. Now we get things like HD Insight, Hadoop implementation on Azure, and we apply the real machine learning, and we can see that there are patterns that we didn't notice before, and we can actually start offering maybe services contracts that we couldn't offer before. Services contracts that will guarantee certain service level agreements to the customer, because we know that if we do certain maintenances at certain times, that will get rid of many of the problems. So that was my second iteration into all of these. Now, we may think, I promised in the beginning, we'll see what we can run today and what we can run tomorrow. So all of what I talked about is actually running today, and not on how many elevators do we have here? 5, 6, maybe? It's actually running with a customer of ours in Microsoft. ThyssenKrupp is one of the largest elevator companies in the world, and they own 1.1 million elevators. And they own 1.1 million elevators in some of the key buildings around the world. Really, buildings where having a problem in the elevator is a real hazard. I mean, stairs are not an option in most of these problems. Now, what ThyssenKrupp did is they connected all their elevators. They increased the sensing capabilities in the elevator, everything from temperature in the shaft alignments and the cab speed, everything that really relates to how healthy their elevators are. And based on that, they started improving the efficiency, started dealing with problems before they happen, moving into the innovation and really updating their systems quickly to get rid of problems. But more importantly, they actually started transforming their business, and they started offering to their customers what they call preemptive maintenance and predictive maintenance. And I love the quote from their CIO where he said that going through this and the machine learning insights that we could get and how that is actually used while we dispatch the technicians, so no technician goes without the right tools, so there are no errands. The first one to understand what's happening and then let me get the tools and so on. The quote that he used was, our elevators are now learning and teaching our technicians how to fix them, which was really an interesting quote for me. So getting back now, how is this getting together and what are the things that we can use today? I'll leave the things part because we have some new news that broke out through the last 2 days, and it's really, it was really encouraging for me to be coming and talking to you about Internet of Things. But when we talk about the connectivity and the data and the analytics, there are lots of things that we put on the cloud under Azure, and the announcement was we announced that we have Azure IoT Suite. And that will involve all the services that I talked about and more, and enable you to really take your businesses to the next step in the 3 categories that I mentioned. But for the things, there is a different announcement, which is about Windows 10. So Windows 10, as many of you know, is in the what we call the technical preview now, and anybody can go ahead and install it. It's still in early stages. But what is happening is we're having a Windows 10 for IoT that is a specific version. We're supporting many of the platforms that I like and some of you like, which are about the development part or the makers part. So we support the Raspberry Pi and the Intel Galileo. But when it comes to the real production of IoT, it's about one Windows that is enabling customers, if we're talking about billions and millions of devices, to deploy and manage these, because it's okay if you can get something to be smart, but if you are not able to really manage these devices, it becomes a problem. Now, the other thing is they have to be secure. We are aware that there are next generation threats that are coming with the Internet of Things, so managing the security of that is really important, and having them all connected with the world. And here I'm not talking about Microsoft only. So if we quickly go through them, Windows 10, one Windows for IoT will be very important, because as we get into these amounts of devices, you'll have a huge complexity of how many small and large devices, and with that comes problems like the development. So we have what we call the Universal App Platform, which will allow people to have a unified user experience across all the devices. The second one is how we have security. Here we're talking about the enterprise-grade security that we gained over the years, and how we can apply it to this class of devices. So it doesn't make any sense for me, at least, and for many people I know, if you're automating your home, that because you're now able to control the lights and the door and so on, that your Wi-Fi gets hacked or anything happens. You have to manage these devices the same way you would manage any other devices, including your identity, your data, and even the devices, how we can lock down the devices and really reset them if we want. The other part about the connectivity is one way for developers and makers of these devices to be able to connect to the internet and to connect to each other through lots of connectivity protocols. And the last one here is how they can connect to Azure as well to really enjoy the benefits and the insights coming from that. So all in all, Internet of Things is happening. I mean, we do have smart devices that get data out, and they are going to be a lot more happy with our approach with Windows 10 and how they can be unified and managed, improving on all business imperatives. In conclusion, I want to leave you with one thing. You will hear, I mean, you already hear and you will hear lots of things about the Internet of Things. I know that as you read through the hype that you may think, hey, it's a fad. It's not a fad. It is happening, and we have lots of customer stories that are benefiting from that. The second thing is, we in Microsoft, we have a strong partner ecosystem that enables us to deliver these experiences all the way from getting devices to be smarter, all the way to getting insights that really transform the business. The last thing is, it really doesn't start by you getting for your business new stuff that doesn't exist today. It starts with your things today. So we'd like to welcome you to the Internet of Things, and if it's one resource I leave you with, it is www.internetofyourthings.com. Tune in for that. Lots of goodies today and lots of goodies to come. Thank you very much.